When we think about starting over, I think of like, oh my gosh, why do I have to start over? Like, it's automatically so damn scary and daunting, but in many ways, it could be so much more refreshing than you think. Sometimes we need to start over. Sometimes we need to take a step back and just start over. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a backstory of like how I had to start over. I was approximately like 31, 32. I just got out of a 6 year relationship, and I remember the first thing I said to myself was, "Oh crap, I have to start over." But then really quickly I started changing my vocabulary like, yo, you get to start over. And I think a lot of us kind of go through those moments where maybe we've lost a job and we're like, oh crap, I have to start over. And then you get a second when you realize like, okay, maybe I can make this work for me. You taking those lemons and turning into some lemon loaf, some delicious ass lemon loaf. So you get a chance to start over, make it work for you the best way you can. Sometimes we got to start over because we're so complacent of where we are at that moment that literally we got to have the rug moved up from underneath us to push us and propel us forward. We want to grow, we want to improve, we want things to be better, but for some reason we're just kind of like holding back on what used to be versus what's gonna be, what's where you need to be, where you should be, where things are aligned for you. You're talking about it, you're writing about it, you're saying it, you're setting goals towards it, but sometimes you have something that could be holding you back, which is it's not someone or something. It could just literally be yourself being afraid of propelling and moving and moving forward, right? So when you think about why we should start over, it literally boils down to the need, the want, right? You gotta be willing, ready, and wanting to do that. You gotta be willing, ready, and ready to kind of like take the steps to grow, improve, and self improve, right? And build that confidence, build that personal development, all of that in between in one melting pot. So sometimes when we think like, why me? You know what I mean? Like, why me? Why do I gotta go through this? But why not you? Why not you? Why not you get this kind of like, not even a slate clean, but kind of like, because I don't think that there's a certain point where you're not starting from scratch. The only time you start from scratch is when you're a baby. So if you're starting over, you're starting from experience. So now you could take what you've learned and take what you've grasped, and you can move it forward. You could take all of that and say, okay, what have I learned? What will I not do? What can I change? How can I educate myself better? That right there is just self-reflection. That's you tapping in yourself. That's you getting to know yourself. And perhaps at that moment you didn't really know who you were. Maybe you were just kind of walking around like a shell and you weren't quite sure of who you were, what you were about, what are the things that were important to you, and what are the things that you wanted to elevate and change. Maybe you've been kind of just wanting to grow, but maybe if the people around you weren't ready for that growth, and you're going to find that they're going to try to pull you back into where you were. This is where boundaries kind of come in. Boundaries is a beautiful thing. When boundaries come in, this allows you to not only set boundaries, to protect yourself, but to protect that future self, but maybe even that past self that wish that you had the power at that time to do it. But now guess what? You do, and you can honor yourself. So set that boundary. And not just with them, because remember, you're setting the boundary to protect and honor you, but set the boundary with yourself, the non-negotiables. What are the things that you're no longer going to accept? What are the things that you're just not like, I'm not, this is where it's a full stop. I'm not doing it anymore. I want more. So with the moment you're thinking like, why do I got to start over? Maybe it's at that point, it's necessary for you to start over. At that point, there's no other option. You've prayed about it, you've talked to the universe about it, you've talked to your ancestors about it, and they said, all right, well, if you want to start over, we gonna do it. Poof, it happens. And you're just kind of like, bro, like, you couldn't give a girl a warning, you couldn't give a dude a warning, you couldn't give me like some type of, like a red flag, a white flag or something. You just decided to buff and lip you upside my head. Like, yeah, sometimes it takes that, right? Sometimes it takes you to have to go through a little bit stuck in the mud to realize that you've been stuck in the mud. It's not just that one moment. It's not just that one moment, because when we think that we're starting over, we automatically think about just the sadness about it. And yo, that's fine. You're mourning it a little bit. That's cool. Think about the sadness, but don't sit in the sadness for too damn long. All right. Now you got to start doing the work. Where do you see yourself moving forward? How do you want to align with that person? What steps are you going to take? What habits are you going to improve, or what habits are you going to add? What kind of values do you get to know? Your values, man? Get to know them, right? Get to know who you are inside, because I guarantee you the person who you were at that moment no longer really exists anymore, or no longer wants to accept what you once accept. So although right now you're probably thinking like, man, I got to start over. This sucks. I'm gonna give you another couple of tips on a breakdown of how you can work through those moments of when you have to start over, and also why you're starting over a little bit. So when we think about why it's necessary to start over, we want to start off with personal growth. Let's get into it. In order for us to grow, sometimes we just have to kind of chuck the environment we're in, not completely, but evaluate it and realize what is not fitting in our circle for us to grow forward. Because sometimes we're accepting the things that we don't want to accept. We're being in the environments that we don't want to be in. So when you're thinking about that, why am I starting over? Think about your personal growth. Is this allowing me to grow at this moment? Sometimes chances is just not. Another thing about starting over is you get to learn from your mistakes. Man, I cannot tell you how many mistakes I've made in my life. There's no way. But I'll tell you that I've taken from each of them as much as I can. At a certain point in my life, when I started my self-improvement journey of okay, that didn't work, but what did I learn from it? That didn't work at all. What can I gain from that? And it's just you never lose. You never lose even when you make a mistake, because now you're just going to take out what didn't work you're going to remove what didn't work. And then you're also just going to say, okay, this did kind of work. We can move this forward. We can still keep this with us. Not everything in a mistake is bad, right? Because you get to learn from your mistakes and you get to grab what you can use to move forward. Another reason why starting over is necessary is because of the opportunities of doors that could open. Sometimes we are stuck in the mud and we feel as if where we are is where we need to be. But to be honest with you, it can be blocking a door that's been wanting to open for you, and the opportunity's been sitting there for so damn long. But we've just been thinking okay, this is so comfortable, so cushy, so I'm just going to sit right here and I'm not going to move. But you could be blocking that opportunity that you've been praying for, manifesting, and wanting to have. So with that being said, sometimes you do gotta kind of start over for the opportunity to really come forth. And kind of going back to the environment half, but we're gonna put mental health first, which we kind of have this entire episode. But I want you to think about the toxic environments we are in sometimes and how it can hinder our mental health. And it doesn't just hinder our mental health, but it hinders our entire body and how we feel and how we speak to ourselves and how we interact and how we react, right? So why are you starting over? I want you to think about this, your lovely brain here, your mental health. How is that feeling? What's popping with this right here? What is going on with this? How can we make this feel more safe? How could we make this feel more loved? Right? So when you're thinking why I gotta start over, is it necessary? Yeah, your mental health needs you to do it. So if you like this episode, go ahead and click that like button. And if you haven't already, go ahead and click that subscribe button so you never miss another episode just like this one. And as always, y'all, I will see you next week. And as always, too, walk with peace and walk with love.